One of the most overlooked areas of leadership is your relationship with your own body. For so many high performing leaders, especially as women, we have conversations that we've been taught not to have. Conversations about health, about aging, about things that we're told are just normal and it's on the normal spectrum. But what if normal doesn't mean that it has to be accepted? Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's right for you. If you have ever felt disconnected from your body while building a life and a business, been told that something is just a part of getting older, or sense that there are solutions out there but no one is actually talking them, this conversation is going to feel both eye opening and empowering. The question that we're answering on this episode today is, what does it look like to reclaim authority over the most sacred bits of your body in a world that often minimizes, medicalizes, or ignores it? Because sovereignty isn't just about your mindset, it's about your body that is run by your subconscious mind. And when we begin to start taking ownership of our health, especially in areas that have been stigmatized or overlooked, you start to step into a deeper level of confidence, power, and leadership. Today's guest is a founder and an innovator who is changing the conversation around women's health. Mary Ellen Reider is the founder of Yarlap, a company dedicated to helping women strengthen their pelvic floor and regain control, confidence, and quality of life without invasive procedures or shame. Through Yarlap, she is helping women address challenges that are incredibly common but rarely are talked about openly. We're having that conversation today. Her work sits at the intersection of health, technology, and empowerment, giving women practical tools to take back ownership of their bodies in a way that is both accessible and effective. Mary Ellen brings a grounded, solutions oriented approach to a topic that has historically been ignored or dismissed. She is not just offering a product, she is offering a shift in how women see themselves, from something that's to be managed and medicalized to something that can be strengthened and empowered, from something to be quiet about to something to be empowered through. I am Kimberly Spencer, founder of Crown Yourself, international speaker, and mentor to sovereign leaders who are here to reclaim their power in every area of their life: body, business, and relationships. This podcast is the Crown Yourself podcast, where we exist to redefine leadership, not just as something you do in business, but as something that you get to embody every day in your life. So if you're ready to have a conversation that expands what it means to lead, to live, and to feel empowered in your own body, stick around. Hit subscribe so you never miss a conversation like the one that we're about to have with the amazing Mary Ellen Reider. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that intro.
Thank you, Queen. So, how did you develop this? I know that you are a mom and you've been doing this for 10 years. What inspired this innovation and this device specifically?
Yeah, so it's actually my dad and myself. So we're co-founders together, and everybody is always so curious as to how my dad is involved and like why I would end up working in this such a taboo realm with my dad. But my dad's a medical device engineer and has developed similar devices like the Yarlap for the NHS, the National Healthcare Systems in France, Great Britain, Germany, and Scandinavia. And I was interning for Women for Women International in Kosovo. And I saw firsthand like how when you do and you empower women, society completely changes, it blossoms. And so I wanted to do something. I knew I wanted a job where I could do that for women. I know that I wanted to do something women centric. I had no idea what it was. And my dad was like, "Well, I have this idea for a Yarlap, but nobody wants to listen to a man because it's kind of weird. And maybe you should think about it." And it's women's empowerment, think about it. And I fell into the trap that I'm now trying to break, which is incontinence is only for old people. Being in diapers, I have absolutely no interest. It is what it is. And he told me, that is so false. Go do your research. Come back and let me know. And I fell down the rabbit hole that is women's health of like specifically the pelvic floor. But turns out in the United States, there's not a lot of studies on the pelvic floor. A lot of the studies that involve women and the pelvic floor are all in either Australia or England. There's very, very few that are here in the United States, and I thought that's so weird because the rate of urinary incontinence for women here in the United States is like 1 in 3. And AARP and the University of Michigan a few years ago did a study, and after the age of 50, it increases to like 50% of women.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking before that, why are we not talking about something that is so huge? 1 in 3? If you're in a room full of people, you know at least 2 people that are peeing themselves when they laugh, sneeze, cough, or they have a sudden urge to go to the bathroom, or they're going constantly at night, something like that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Why aren't we talking about it? And I remember sitting down with my friends, and at a coffee shop and talking about Yarlap and how I had this opportunity. Should I take it? Is it weird? And one of my best friends said, well, I pee when I laugh. I had known this girl since we were 9, never knew. And I thought, if that's in my life and I can help her, why am I not doing that? So I remember going into my dad's office and going, let's do this. Let's work together. Let's not bring any shame. Let's talk to women because we already know something's going on. But let's be an outlet for these people so they can talk to us and we can listen and we can empathize with them. And not only that, but we can offer them an actual solution that gets rid of the problem. Let's do it. And my dad goes, well, I know that. He's like, I know that twinkle in your eye. All right, let's do it. And I mean, it wasn't like we woke up one day and created Yarlap. It was like thousands of pages of paperwork and in years of like clinical research because of FDA clearance. But that's kind of like the condensed short version of how I basically became the girl known to all of her friends and family as the girl that has a PowerPoint on her keychain of the pelvic floor and talks about it at baby showers, including my own. So here we are. Here we are.
Here we are. I love the journey. First of all, I love the fact that you partnered with your dad and that you have that relationship to be able to do that. My dad was also an entrepreneur, and as a second generation entrepreneur, it's like there's something magical of the lessons that you learn of how you can serve and support at a whole new level. And the fact that you have a PowerPoint on your keychain is
I know.
amazing.
Yeah, it's been a whole thing. But my dad was always the one who, and I know most girls go to their moms about their periods and stuff like that. That was never us. We were body parts are body parts, and there's no shame. Like, it's all part of your health. So we were never taught like coochie or anything like that. That was
Mhm,
never, or your like no zone. It was always this is your anatomical parts,
mhm.
vaginal area, your vagina. We knew everything. And it's very important that you know all of your anatomy in case you need to explain it to somebody or your healthcare professional or something like that, that you're not just giving a bland overall guide, you're giving very specifics. So when I got my first period, my dad had obviously no personal experience with any of the products. So he went to our local grocery store and bought one box of everything that they had available. And it was like multiple bags of stuff. And he brought it all back and he was like, I don't know what's going to work for you, but you're going to find something here probably. And it was just like bags of stuff. And it was like heavy duty pads and then like very light tampons. It was the entire spectrum back in the early 2000s. And I had my pick and he was like, just pick something that's going to work for you, but here are your options. And so that's kind of like that's the dad that I grew up with. It was never anything to be ashamed about or embarrassed about. It's just part of what happens. It's normal. There's no stigma to it. There's no embarrassment. Like, let's figure it out.
I think that that's such a valuable perspective for parents who are listening to this because shame loves secrets. And we too are a family that speaks anatomically correct, especially around not just for doctors and medical reasons, but also for like sexual health and having a history of myself personally of abuse. And we want you to be aware of what body parts you have and what those body parts do. And it was my 4-year-old who educated a 9-year-old at his gymnastics class. If he goes, I have a penis and you have a vagina. He was that kid in kindergarten cop.
Amazing. Amazing.
I was staring at these moms and they're like, "Well, I guess we have to have that conversation." I was like, "You haven't had that conversation? She's 9." I was surprised that this is not a conversation that we are having more often with our kids, of removing the stigma and the shame around body parts and just allowing it to, it's part of nature. In fact, I do think that on like a spiritual perspective, as a mother who has birthed 3 children, like my son asked me what a vagina was, and I said, "It's a spiritual portal into the ether that then creates life." You know, we birth life through it. And that perspective, he goes, "Oh, that's so cool that something can be created in total darkness in the womb." And there are so many awarenesses and respect, and I think a reverence that has to be had, especially around the female anatomy, as we are mothers birthing life into this world, something that is so special and unique to us. When you started as a female founder of a product company, what were the biggest adversities that you had when you started taking this product to market?
It still is the biggest, actually. So it's like hurdle day by day, basically, is algorithms. Because a lot of these algorithms are set up without asking women or taking into consideration women. They're just very blanketed algorithms. So we're in the pelvic floor spectrum, right? We're in that area. But they basically just anything below the belly button is just blanketed as sex. Well, there's so
Mhm.
much more that goes on besides that, and sex is also not just porn, and it's not just penetration. There is so much more to sexual wealth and health than those 2 topics, and it all works into your quality of life, and it all works in together. I mean, your pelvic floor is the foundation. It is literally the hammock that holds your bladder, your uterus, and your visceral organs into position. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the other aspect, which is the orgasm. It's totally separate. But if you're looking at the big picture, it's all connected. Your body is an all connecting, all intertwined thing. It's not a
Mhm.
compartmentalized issue and it should not be blanketed as such. And so for us, the biggest issue was trying to explain to people, and we've slowly gotten our way into speaking to engineers who are part of the algorithm, creating the algorithm, of telling them women are much more than just bodies to have sex with. And you need to, and we're all laughing, or you're rolling your eyes and you're going, I can't believe you had to even tell somebody that. But you do, because
It's so shocking that in this day, like, you still have to remind
yeah, I
people
mean,
of
we
that.
recently had a whole discussion with a very large platform that Kegel exercises are not sex. It is actually the number one recommended exercise for toning this area of your body. And it's like saying, like, a push up is bad.
Mhm.
A push-up is sexual, a pull-up is sexual, and it's like, what are you policing at this point? Have you thought more in depth about this? And whenever we're able to speak to, like, an engineer who's discussing it, they're always really receptive, and they're not the bad guy, and I don't want them to be painted as such, but I think that women and women's health especially are consistently overlooked. They are severely underrepresented, and when we have algorithms that blanket us and penalize us, the ability to get resources and tools and education and information are really hampered,
Mhm.
because the people who are trying to give you the information and they're trying to help you can't get to you. And that's the biggest hurdle that we consistently hit and are hit by. Thankfully, like I said, a lot of the times when we're able to talk to a human after constant appeals and we annoy them, then we finally are able to talk some sense, and everybody's very receptive and kind, and it's a very respectful situation, and it usually gets resolved. But it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't happen in the first place. Women's health and women should not be an afterthought, especially on something, and especially on platforms that are created to bring people together. And so that's the biggest thing. That's my big, the long-winded answer. But I think that the biggest hurdle is algorithms, and they're not going away. There's a lot more coming. And I just wish that, like, if somebody hears this, or they know somebody who creates algorithm, or they know somebody who creates coding, that, like, you really think about women and women's health. You don't need to think about, um, a specific person maybe, but, like, we do deserve that thought, and we do deserve that respect, especially when it comes to our health. Like, men don't really need to have this issue. I know that, I think it's like 8 years at this point, 6 years ago, Dame, which is a women's centric toy company. They're amazing. They had issues with the MTA in New York about advertising, but erectile dysfunction companies had absolutely no issues. What's the difference? And so it's just like we're already set up on an unlevel playing field. And it would be really great if the people who are behind the algorithms and behind all of this, who genuinely want to make safeguards, take into consideration that women's health is an all encompassing thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're not the first female founder that I've heard who is in women's health who has experienced this. I heard Cindy, who founded one of the first female pleasure pills and pharmaceuticals, was on the Ed Milet podcast and faced a similar challenge of female pleasure is something that was like taboo, but men with ED, like that's totally fine. And
Yeah,
I think
you can get them at the ATM store. You can just walk in somewhere and just announce that you need that, and it's fine. But if women say that we need it, it's, you know, shame and how dare
Mhm.
you, and why do you need this? How rude.
How rude.
But yeah, yeah,
Women in pharma and even vaccine studies have just been historically underrepresented in testing and clinical research. And especially when you're dealing with a product that is specifically for women, looking at alternative ways to market it, I think that are more education based because I think so many people have been so stigmatized to see female pleasure and just even the body parts below the belly button, that anything is correlated to, like, what it immediately evokes an internal representation of shame or porn or something like that, it's not, it's integrative to our female health, as you said.
yeah, exactly. And again, there's nothing wrong with those two things.
Yeah.
I mean, sex is a natural part. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like how I think that how we do the safeguards need to be closer examined than just a
Mhm.
blanket statement. And we deserve that respect, we deserve that time, and we deserve that consideration instead of just being like, well, all of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And blanketed in a way that just because it makes people uncomfortable. And I think that there is something to be said for women stepping up to the mic like yourself as you're doing leading this company and having the uncomfortable conversations that have so often been shrouded in shame. I know you said that as you're speaking to more and more engineers regarding algorithms that they're very receptive as you start educating, but that gap between paradigm that they've been in or indoctrinated in and the paradigm that they're at that you guide them to through education, how have you been bridging that gap? What marketing have you found to be the most successful in the 10 years that you've been building Yarlap?
Say, besides having clinicians and PTs help us. So, Yarlap, we're a pelvic floor muscle stimulator. So, we're FDA cleared, we do all that. And having them come out on their platforms and creating that education where we can then repost it has been extremely helpful. Because I think when you have somebody who is considered like a license, not considered, they are a licensed healthcare professional, but they are kind of considered on a separate tier on these
Mhm.
platforms that are expressing and educating. It's taken a little bit more seriously. And then we are able to go, this is us. Please look at this OBGYN. Please look at this sexologist. Please look at this pelvic floor physical therapist who has talked about us. Please look at all these other individuals who are educating about what the pelvic floor is, why it's so important, urinary incontinence, the orgasm, whatever topic it is that they're doing, and creating short snippets of education that these people can look at and understand. I think that long form has kind of gone away since like reels and everything. We have a smaller attention span. And so the smaller clip, bigger punch, more education that she can pack in has really helped us
Yeah,
because
and
we
I think
kind of send that along to people. And we have literally sent reels of other people to these engineers and gone, like, this is what we're doing. We would love to have you as part of this conversation. And then they're like, oh, my mom had that. Okay, I get it. Uh, yeah, my sister's had like 4 kids and she now pees herself. Like, I get it. Okay, this is what this is. Yeah. And then kind of attaching that personal perspective on top of it is very helpful because, again, with the statistic of 1 in 3, everybody knows somebody. And
mhm,
so once you're able to kind of attach that personal perspective to it, nobody wants somebody to mess with their mom. So if the mom or the grandma or sister, whomever has had this issue, boy, oh boy, does that conversation change instantly. We're not fighting, we're on the same team. Okay, let's do this. Let's like educate me, tell me about Kegel exercise, like all this other stuff. I would say that that's kind of like the biggest thing is other people talking about and educating it, word of mouth, but also definitely the instant personal connection to it, especially when it comes to urinary incontinence, because it's a peeve and it is a pain in the rear. So I think a lot of the times when we get somebody who has a personal experience with it, that conversation changes very quickly.
yeah. Yeah, especially, like, I love the fact that you mentioned that, like, no one wants there to mess with somebody else's mom. Like,
Yeah.
that's when, the fierce son warrior energy kinda comes out of, like, "Don't mess with my mom."
Yeah.
And I love that you tap into that because I think when we start having that conversation, it really does open up doors, and it also opens up people's hearts to stripping away the shame. If you were to change society with a magic wand, and what conversations would you wanna see happening more regularly between women and men?
I would love it if we could talk about the pelvic floor in as like a whole without all the stigma and the emotion attached to it. I would love that because everybody has a pelvic floor. Everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Everybody has a pelvic floor. But women, we go through so many different life changes. So we go through hormones, we go through like perimenopause and menopause. We go through pregnancy and postpartum. We go through labor. We are active runners. And I'm not saying men aren't, but like we have a lot of people who are, like, long distance runners,
Mhm. I myself
trampoline
included.
classes. If you're looking into those, not a lot of dudes are doing that, but we have a lot of people who are doing repetitive motion, and all of those create pressure onto your pelvic floor, and most of the time, most women don't even know what's happening to their pelvic floor until they start leaking, and by then, a few things happen where they're either like, I guess this is my burden to bear as a mom or as a woman.
Mm,
This is the next chapter. And I remember this is what actually stopped me and became Miss Keychain at a baby shower is my friend's grandma or aunt, can't remember who it was, told her, don't worry if you laugh, sneeze, cough. That's just because you have a big baby and it's just part of being a mom and it's okay. And I looked at her and I said, absolutely not. And I said, no, it's not. I said, just because something is common doesn't make it normal. And your pelvic floor just needs tone. And then the problem is fine. Like, then the problem has a solution. Yarlap is that solution. We're an FDA cleared solution for this. It is not something that you have to deal with because you're a woman. That is another myth that we have been fed. And then I whipped out a 7-page PowerPoint that included the G spot and the O spot and all the spots. Just started at a baby
well
shower.
done.
Anyway, it was fine. My friend thought it was hilarious, but there's so much stigma around it where we are so ashamed of anything happening to our vaginas. I mean, there's wipes for scents. There's deodorants for odors. There's all kinds of different things to help mask any embarrassment. I'm putting quotes around that.
Mhm.
But, like, we have so many things that are just fear and embarrassment centric around our body parts down there that I so wish if I could, with a wand, erase that,
Mhm.
because I think we would have such a better, quicker, solution-oriented situation if we could just be open, honest, and direct with what's happening in our vulvovaginal areas. And, like,
Mary
men are able
Ellen
to do it. Men are able to talk about their dicks anywhere. But, like, we if there's something happening to us, we're kind of conditioned almost to close it up and internalize it. And I wish that you could just talk about it openly with anybody and whomever.
Yeah.
Just have that conversation because there's no stigma about your body. There's none. And if anybody makes you feel stigmatized or embarrassed about your body, that's their problem, and they can deal with it.
Yeah. And I think you brought up such an interesting point and such a necessary point, especially for women, are the quiet things that we end up tolerating. Like grandma's advice was very rooted in a systemic issue that women have of like, just swallow it, just like deal with it. And this is why we're seeing women have so much burnout and so much mental health so many mental health challenges, especially around motherhood. And oh, I guess I should just be doing it on my own. And I was having a conversation with a client the other day, not about pelvic floor health, but just around getting support because she had a newborn and another young child and was homeschooling and running a business and just listening to the challenges that she was facing and how she was just kind of like, oh well, I'm supposed to deal with all of these things on my own. And I was like, when did we decide that? When did we decide that we need to swallow these things and have them be just something that we tolerate? And a low level, low grade of frustration, of annoyance, and that is how we get to live our lives. And I object to that. I think that we get what we tolerate, but I think we as women can raise our standards for what we actually are tolerating. And if something doesn't need to be tolerated, then that means that you actually have the power to change it. And I love that you created something that allows women, that is a solution to helping change it and actively making that decision and choice in being a creator rather than just tolerating the circumstances that you were given. I mean, and I say this as a mother of 3 young kids, and I experienced the trampoline issue after my 3rd child where I was like, "Oh, okay, there we go." Bouncing on a trampoline and couldn't hold it in. And I was like, "Okay, well, we got some pelvic floor work to do." Unfortunately, from my background as a Pilates instructor for 13 years, like, I understand the power of the pelvic floor, and that's where, Pilates comes in handy. And then having supplemental devices like what Yarlap provides, like what you are creating and being such an advocate for, having those additional tools that can help.
Yep. Well, thank you. Yeah, so that's what I think that would be, like, my biggest thing in society if I could change it with a wand would be just, like, let's stop with the embarrassment and the stigma around it, and let's just get to the root. And so I think that we kinda did that with Yarlap, but I would love to do it on, like, a more global, international, societal situation.
Mhm.
That would be my wish.
Now, as a mom, like, you've got a young child, you're pregnant with another one, like, how are you navigating the growth of your company and the growth of your family together?
It's hard. It is
Right?
so hard. It is so hard, especially with daycare costs. That was the biggest thing for us is, like, daycare cost was like a second mortgage, and so we forwent it, and we were so lucky that our parents were like, "We give us the grandbabies." And that has been monumental, and I'm pretty sure the only reason that we've been able to do what we've done and allow me to do what I've done is my in-laws and my parents taking like, my village, essentially, coming in and going, "Give us the children. We will watch them." And I'm very lucky, and I'm very well aware of how lucky I am to be in that position, um, and to have a job where I can go, "Well, today is just not the day. Today, we have had big emotions and we need to be mom first. Yarlap can come tomorrow. We'll try again." I think that I have a very special, very unique job in that I can I can do that and I can switch hats.
Mhm.
But it's been very difficult and I don't want anybody to think that it's a walk in the park because it's really not. But I think coming back to it is like, you do need to have the ability to ask your village, "Is this something that we can take on? Can you help me with this? It's uncomfortable, but can you help me?" And
Mhm.
you'd be surprised at what your village steps up to do. I mean, there was no, well, maybe it was all a very firm, "Yes, we will take the children," like, my parents and my in-laws and everybody, like, 5 days a week. My girl is hanging out, like, her best friends are her grandparents.
I love
So,
that. The same is true with our family as well, and I think, again, that goes back to something systemic that we've tolerated as women, as this belief system that we have to do it ourselves and that it's just us, or then we have that the only other solution is daycare, and there can be so many more solutions and options, especially if the grandparents are involved. My dad was not as much involved and we were not as much involved when my dad was alive, but now my mom, she lives with us and she is our granny, and our kids love her, and we couldn't do what we're doing without her. And I think there's also so much knowledge that comes with that too, is the experience that they've had raising you, and then, supporting and raising your kids, and how it becomes this very integrative family unit rather than disassociated. And I know so many people live so far away from grandparents, and we did too for a while when we lived in Australia. And it definitely was harder to build a community around us when we had our second living in Australia abroad. And then when we came back, like, we would not have been able to have a third child had it not been for my mom living with us.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy what your village is capable of allowing you to do, and if you have a really good village, you'll have a really good outcome because you have people that you support and that you trust. And I mean, like, we are in the middle of, like, moving and selling our house and everything, and I have friends who are moms who are like, "We will take her for the entire day, and she
Mhm.
can run around with our children, and they will wear each other out." And you're like, "This is it's so nice, and I'm so lucky to have found that." And I know that it's not common, which sucks, which is it, and it's so shitty. I know I probably shouldn't cuss, but
Oh,
it's
no, that's
so
fine.
bad that, like, we've basically just grown into isolation, and I think that that has also been back again to the pelvic floor. Like, you've become so independent and so isolated, conditioned to think, to internalize it, and to have that stress and those activities is not really the word, but having those actions placed upon you. And once they start stacking, they become heavy. And then you become resentful and you become angry. And if you're getting hit by all sides, right? Like, you're getting hit with motherhood and childcare, and then all of a sudden your body's not even cooperating with you, and you're accidentally leaking when you laughed, like, sneeze, cough, or you can't sleep through the night because you have to get up to urinate. Like, and all of a sudden your body's not even cooperating with you. Like, that is so difficult. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out, whether that is to your doctor, whether that is to your parents or your group chat that has a really weird name that you want somebody to immediately edit if something were to ever happen to you. Like, there's nothing wrong with reaching out. And I wish that we weren't so conditioned in that isolation.
I think the common thread here is support. It's like supporting your pelvic floors, that it's the base of your body, in essence, the base that's holding in all your internal organs. And so often a mother is the one who's holding a lot together.
Yep.
And how can we get support on the macro level and have that also influence support on the internal micro level, and how it translates into how our body is interpreting it? And I've seen, like, I've had family members who have struggled with incontinence who haven't even had children. And the challenges and the shame that goes around it, and the frustration and the anger and the resentment and all the negative emotions that stack up. And eventually we just start tolerating it. And if we as women can start stripping away what we tolerate and say, like, let's raise the standards for what we're actually tolerating. How have you raised your standards for what you tolerate in business as you've grown this company?
That's a great question for my dad because he is my right hand. Like, he is my best friend and everything. And so it's been very easy for me to go, I need help. This is not something I can do. I don't have the bandwidth for this. And bless him, he has every single time gone, well, okay, I will do it. And so I've been again, I think I'm very unique in that I am able to vocalize what I need or what I believe I need, and sometimes my village will correct me. Sometimes my dog will be like, "You are spitting out over something that is absolutely not spin out worthy." Like,
Gee,
yeah.
I have no idea what that is
Yeah,
like.
and they're like, "Why are
Now
you this
that
is
that
so
that
minute in the grand scheme of
safety for
things,
me.
like, something deeper might be going on." But, like, I think I'm so lucky to be with my dad, where I have that comfort and that communication just built in, and to just go, like, this person is for, like, customer service, for example, like, if somebody is so rude, and I would like to mention when it comes to Yarlap, very rarely does that happen. I am so thankful.
Hey.
Most of the women that contact Yarlap are, like, sweet little gems. Occasionally, you'll get somebody who is just irate, and it's very, very rarely over anything that we've done. It's usually, like,
Mhm.
a lost package, or which I have no control over. If I
Yeah.
could, I would. But or something else, like, in their day has gone awry, or their week has just been absolute crap, and I just happen to pick up the phone. But, like, if I have a really bad call and it just ruins my day, I will go to my dad and go, like, "I don't have the bandwidth to take another one of those. Would you mind taking over, or can we just, like, call it a day for a second?" And I think that my tolerance for realizing that, like, I don't need to take on everything. We have people that are hired to do stuff. I have a village that is happy to step in if I need more care. It's just I feel extremely lucky that I'm able to communicate what I believe that I need. But I also think that that's how Yarlap started, is that I've never really shied away from awkward, hard topics. But that's basically it, is basically calling my dad and going, "Dad, I can't do." And him going, "Okay, how do I help?" But he's a wonderful partner.
Yeah. I think that it's great to have that partnership in any sort of business, and whether it's, your dad or your integrator or your COO or your VA, having some sort of ability to so often we as women, and especially as female founders, we go at it alone, and it can be so challenging to feel like everything's on you versus really leaning into the village. And I see that and hear that through everything that you've shared about your journey as a female founder, and as being able to build a life integrated with building this business and supporting so many women and being able to serve and leaning into having those hard conversations. And I think one of the things I would love for more women to take away from this podcast is ask for the support. Like, if something is not working in your body, then we don't have to just tolerate that. We can actually find a solution. Like, just have a solution list. I don't like a to-do list, but I'm like, this is the solution list. We're going to find a list. Here's another problem, and this is the list of things that we're currently finding solutions for. And go out there and build that solution list. If it's something that's going on with your body, find a solution for it. Allow yourself to experiment. I think one of the great stories that you shared, Mary Ellen, was your dad coming home with all of the multiple different types of options for your menstrual cycle. Is
Yeah,
like, one
just
of
find
these
something
is
that
gonna
works for you.
work. I don't know what's gonna work for you. And it's the same thing that I do with my clients with business coaching. I'm like, you have a success strategy already built into you. Like, we don't need to rework the wheel. Here's a bunch of options that you can choose from. What do you actually like? How do you like to generate leads? How do you like to sell? What feels most aligned for you in marketing? How do you like to communicate and build relationships? Because that's going to be your success path forward. It's not going to be you copying somebody else's model and somebody else of what someone else said you should tolerate or should do, and doing it just because you hate it, like tolerating incontinence or even tolerating low sales. Like, all of it is a level of tolerance. I love the quote from Tony Robbins, who said, "You get what you get in life, what you tolerate." And when we raise our standards for what we're tolerating, we can actually find more solutions.
Mhm.
With Yarlap, where do you see it going in the next decade? I mean, you've been featured in Women's Health, you've gotten FDA clearance as a medical device. Like, you have built it so far and you have multiple clinicians who are referring it. Where do you see it growing from?
I would love it to grow in like a societal form, almost kind of like how chapstick is. You know how the chapstick is a brand name?
Yeah.
It's not lip balm, but everybody calls it chapstick. I would love for Yarlap to be like when you think of a weak pelvic floor, urinary incontinence, sexual health, anything like that, and you want that improvement, I would love for us to be that forefront name, almost like that we are synonymous with it. I would love that. I would really love for us to become part of that vocal conversation, and that when somebody goes, urinary incontinence, been told to do Kegels, somebody immediately goes, Yarla. Without having to like, you know what I mean? Like without embarrassment or hopelessness. I
Mhm.
would love to be kind of like the societal pelvic floor version of that, of chest. I would love that. Because we work, we're really proud of our results. We have clinicians again who tell their patients to use us in between appointments because it works. And you don't want to take one step forward at the appointment, two steps backwards, and then you're at the same place at the next appointment. So we're kind of like the training wheels to get you from appointment to appointment. And I love that. And I love that clinicians believe in us. And I love that people who use Yarlap believe in us. And I love that when people really love what has happened to them, they'll like call in or they'll leave a review or they'll send us an email about like for the first time, sometimes in decades, they're able to like go out and they don't have to worry about the bathroom or like they don't have to wear a panty liner anymore, that kind of stuff. And I would love to be more spread. Like I would love to have that be the norm. I don't want us to think, gotta live with it. I would rather people go, Yarlap
Mhm.
as like the instinct response to that. That's where I see us.
As you develop this technology, have you ran into any knockoffs or patent infringements as you've brought this to market?
Yes, and it has
Mm.
been very uncomfortable, especially since a lot of them are overseas. And so the litigation for that is very difficult because they don't necessarily abide by the same rules here. So, yes, it's been uncomfortable and costly. Please make sure if you're doing it that you look at companies that are taking quality control very seriously. Yarlap does. So make sure that if you're buying Yarlap that it is Yarlap, that it has our brand name on it. And if you're searching for like a pelvic floor stimulator or something to help tone your pelvic floor muscles, that you look into the quality control, where it's made, how it's made, what products are being used, how it's being made. And again, like my biggest thing is if it's going inside of your vagina, if it's going inside of your body and you want it to help, make sure it is made with the greatest care, the greatest respect for the rules. So for Yarlap, the control unit is tested minimum 3 times before it gets to the customer. It is checked after it's been made, after it has been shipped, after it's been assembled. It has been checked multiple times. We take quality control supreme, not because we're FDA cleared and we have to, otherwise we get smacked really hard, but because as a woman, I don't want anything going inside of me that might hurt me. So I really take quality control supremely seriously. So for Yarlap, you're getting something that has been quality controlled multiple times. It is manufactured in Ireland with top-notch supplies. I would just state that if you're looking for pelvic floor stimulators or something like that, make sure that you look beyond the price point and get into the nitty gritty. How seriously are they taking their production? How seriously are they taking quality control? How seriously are they taking reports and everything like that? Really look into it because it's a very delicate part of your body. So just be aware and be careful.
Yeah, I had a client who was a naturopath and a former biochemist for the CDC, and she sells these foot baths, and you can get them for super cheap on Amazon, and they're the ionic foot baths. But she's actually tested the blood of her clients based on this one, I bought a unit for my house, absolutely love it. But she's like, be aware of the scammy ones on Amazon because there are a lot of fakes. And unfortunately, with patents and consumer product goods, like there can be a lot of fakes and it can be easy to be distracted by the price point. But I do think just like with premium items, especially with those that you are choosing to put in your body, just be aware of what you are purchasing. And I mean, Yarlap is very reasonable for the results that you are seeing within your customers at just around $300.
Yeah. And it's if you take into the cost of like consumables, so like diaper reorderables, pad lining reorderables, uh, bed liner like reorderables, after your copays and everything like that, all these other different factors were extremely reasonable. We're actually the cheaper of the options. So, but again, like as your foot bath friend has said, just like do your research
Mhm.
because if you look past that one thing, you start to notice a lot of irregularities.
Mhm.
I don't want to get in trouble, but like do your research. And especially again, like if you're putting something in your vagina, do your research. And I feel dumb for even saying that because I'm sure as soon as I said that, every woman was like, duh.
Yes, and yet we've all dated that one person.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, somebody immediately came into everybody's mind.
Yep. Yep. And so now you're like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna do my research a little bit deeper with what I put in what."
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, well, do your research, do you think? But yes, we have had issues, but that doesn't stop us. I mean, we're the leaders when it comes to educating and providing like education and all these other different things. And like again, and I can't stress this enough, like the quality control is so important. If you're doing something like in this realm, quality control is so important. And you want to make sure that whoever you support with your purchase, that you're really confident that their quality control is top notch.
And I think that that is a beautiful place to come back full circle to the theme of this episode, which really has been raising your standards to what you tolerate and having a high tolerance for quality goods, quality relationships, quality businesses, and quality of life in your body and the quality of how you're treating yourself and the quality of support that you receive. So, Mary Ellen, I've loved this conversation. I'd love to pivot into a little bit of rapid fire. Are you ready?
Bring it. Let's do it.
Who is your favorite female character in a book or a movie and why?
Okay. So my favorite book is Rebecca, but she's not my favorite. Not
I
my
love
favorite.
that book. It is my favorite fiction book,
It's
too.
so good. It's such a good, but like not her. But anytime somebody's like favorite book, that's like all I can think about.
It is so hauntingly good. And yeah, she's a terrible character.
I would say season 2 to 4 or 5 of Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec. Love. Obsessed. Just like the kindness, the passion, the empathy, and like borderline obsession with what she does. Like she's so into what she does. She's so into her department and like the enthusiasm. I'm like, I hope that I give off that love and that passion for Yarlap. I would say her, but I know for a fact because it's been said to me multiple times that I am more April Ludgate from Parks and Rec. So there's that. But I would say for myself, how I see myself is Leslie Knope, but seasons like 2 through 5, where she's like super into the parks department and knows everything and everybody and is like the backbone and like the mother of everything.
Mm,
Yeah.
love it. I've never seen that show, so I'll have to watch it.
Highly recommend. Highly recommend.
We're just wrapping up Gilmore Girls, so I'll have to.
Another good one though. That's another good one.
Yeah. Yeah. With what person, alive or alive and in their time, male or female, would you want to trade places with just for a day to experience how their life, see the world as they did?
Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just There was like a recent report that like her popularity is like 70 something percent and the second closest person is like 18%. And it's like everybody loves her. She does that like we signed it up for my daughter, the Imagination Library, where she provides like a free book from newborn till 5, I believe, every month. And you sign up for it and it takes like a month or two to actually like kick in, but it's at your doorstep every month, a new book. And I think that that's so cool. Like, I mean, she's used her fame and instead of like doing something wild and extreme, she's providing literacy and reading all this stuff and she's an icon. And she's been around for so long and has probably been through so many different chapters and like just the bedazzlement, I feel like is all over her personality, but also like on the inside as well. And I would just love to switch positions for just like a day to see what that's like, to just see. I would just love that. I think her, definitely.
I love that. As a founder, what is your money routine? How do
My
you look
money
at
routine?
how do you look at your finances? How often do you look at your P&Ls? Like, what is your money routine, both energetically and like pragmatically?
Super conservative. I am scared to spend anything, but also I'll go through phases where I'm like, money is meant to be spent. It grows on trees. It'll be back next month. It's fine. But I go through waves. But a lot of the times I'm like, I could thrift that. I could probably make that. Have you checked Facebook Marketplace for this? And then like for investments and stuff, to be
Mhm.
honest, I kind of just like set it aside and look at it during tax season at the end of the year when they're like, let's do a report. I'm like, okay, let's do this. But I check my bank account almost every other day. I firmly have like a delusion that I can make anything. I have never made anything. But that's basically, I would rather thrift it. I'd rather have it secondhand. I'd rather
Mhm.
give whatever I have secondhand. Buying new is not really something I revel in. So I would say conservative, but also I'll have like moments of where I'm like, let's just spend it. Let's just do it. You know, you only live once. And then I'm like, oh, that was bold.
That was bold. That was a bold move.
You know, let's not do that again. But yeah, like I go through waves, but I would say most of the time I'm very cautious about everything.
Lastly, what does it mean to crown yourself?
I would say to crown myself is when you feel like, not the most important because that sounds so selfish, but you feel empowered and almost like invincible. And for me, it's moments like when I'm on a podcast or something and I get to talk about like why I started Yarlap, why I love it so much, why I believe in it so much. And it's like sometimes I get into a pigeonhole where I think like, what's the point? It's just routine. Everything is routine. Is anything really worth it? That kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
then I'll listen to like my friends or like how you at the introduction did like a beautiful hyping up. It felt like a crowning ceremony, right? Of like my achievements and accomplishments and what I'm actually trying to do and like what I'm actually doing. And I feel empowered and I feel like somebody just put a cloak on me.
Mhm.
That's kind of, and again, I think that goes back into like your village and what you tolerate and your quality of friendships and life and like how you view your relationship with your own body and your own health is all that. Like when you're at the top of your game and you finally get somebody to zoom out and show how worthy and amazing and wonderful you are and like all of your accomplishments, no matter how tiny and minute you might think they are, there's somebody on the outside who just thinks that you are the shit. And
100%.
it's moments like that where you're like, oh, I have really done a lot and I should be extremely proud of that. And it's like, it's moments of intense pride and almost invincibility. So after this, I'm going to go run
Yes.
because I feel really good about myself. So yeah, I think to crown yourself is to feel extreme pride, regardless of like what area in your life. Like, is it motherhood? Is it your business? Is it your quality of life? Is it the quality of like your health and how you can take control of that? And for you, you might think that that's so tiny, overlooked, and it doesn't matter. But in the grand scheme, like it's so wonderful and beautiful, and you should be extremely proud of that.
100%. 100%. And I think when we take those steps to just honor our bodies and support and to raise the standards of what we tolerate and to step into our power and really claim and seek answers and find and get curious, we are presented with amazing products. So if you are a mom, if you're a woman, if you are wanting to support yourself and your pelvic floor, then head on over to yarlap.com and check out the Yarlap and check out what it can do for your body and your peace of mind, being able to run freely and jump on a trampoline and feel fully supported as the amazing leader that you were born to be. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now. I'll see you in the next episode.